Welcome to the Compassionate Recovery Podcast, the show where we explore healing from sex and porn addiction, betrayal, infidelity, substance use, and everything in between. Wherever you are on your healing journey, I'm glad you're here. Welcome. My name is Jeremy Mast. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm a certified sex addiction therapist, a certified partner trauma therapist. I'm also the clinical director and founder at the Center for Integrative Change, a therapy and coaching practice dedicated to helping those struggling with and affected by sex and porn addiction, betrayal, infidelity, and addictions. We help them transform their lives. Recovery is not a straight line. We need compassion at every step in the way. So, wherever you are, now that you're here, pull up a chair, take a breath, and let's dive in. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Compassionate Recovery Podcast. I'm here with Jorden Groenink. Jorden is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's a certified partner trauma therapist who's been with the Center for Integrative Change for 3.5 years. I read that yesterday, and I couldn't believe how much time had gone by since we first started together. Jorden primarily focuses on helping partners and couples navigate through betrayal, especially betrayal stemming from addictive behaviors. She is the site director for the Center for Integrative Change in San Jose and offers coaching worldwide. Jorden is also a new mom to a 4-month-old baby boy and really enjoys cultivating community in motherhood. Jorden, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Glad you're here too. So, the topic for today that we talked about is what to do after you find out that you've been betrayed. Right. And it's such a great question. It's a question that so many of our clients grapple with when they're in the throes of discovering that there's been betrayal. So I want to explore that with you today. But I wonder first if we can just talk about the nature of betrayal itself and how that impacts partners who have been betrayed. When we talk about betrayal, we often talk about betrayal trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if you can share with us a little bit more about what betrayal trauma is.
Yeah, I'd love to. And first of all, backing up a little, let me just say I think this is a really important topic to do because this is kind of the question that we get. I mean, you know that we get when clients call us frantically, like my world is just turned upside down. What the heck do we do? What do I do as an individual? What do we do as a couple? What's going to happen? I have no idea. It's sometimes it's like those frantic website inquiries at 3 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a huge question. So starting off, yeah, what is betrayal trauma? And I think one thing that's important to distinguish is when we say betrayal trauma, we're talking about partner betrayal trauma, intimate partner betrayal trauma, because you can be betrayed by institutions, friends, you can be betrayed by anything, anyone, but we are focusing on intimate partner betrayal trauma. And so being betrayed, I would kind of define it as you have been a maybe you could say victim of infidelity. And it could be whether that is a one-time affair, whether it is a full-blown sex addiction. And a lot of partners, depending on what they think, it can include porn use. Porn use can be a betrayal, porn addiction. The betrayal looks very different, but can look very different for everyone. But there are some key factors that are the same. The betrayal occurred between partners in a romantic relationship. The betrayal included one partner stepping outside of the agreed upon boundaries of the relationship. And the betrayal was hidden from the partner either by ways of lies, deception, and/or gaslighting. So there was something that happened that was outside the bounds of what was agreed upon, and it was hidden from someone else. And then betrayal trauma is kind of the effects of that. what that does to a person, what that does to their nervous system, what that does to their inner world when the person that they trust the most oftentimes blindsides them. And then just one more note about betrayal trauma and betrayed partners. Betrayed partners can be man, woman in a heterosexual relationship and in a non-heterosexual, any type of relationship, any type of gender identity, gender expression. But personally, my work has been with heterosexual couples, and as of now, I have only seen clients who have been in relationship or couples where the man is the the addict, if we're talking specifically about addiction.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the most common situation that we see. Although I've certainly worked with couples where it's the female, the woman, the wife who's somehow been unfaithful, who has a sex or love addiction. That's very, very possible. I've also often worked with gay and lesbian couples too. Okay, so one thing I wanted to highlight, you said something about how there was some kind of violation of trust with the infidelity,
Hmm.
and that happens when one partner doesn't honor the agreements that are inherent in the relationship, right? That there's been some kind of violation of of trust of the agreements between two partners in a relationship. And I want to underscore how rare it is for partners in a relationship to explicitly negotiate what that agreement is. There's this unspoken expectation that the vast majority of couples agree upon that, hey, we're going to be faithful to each other, but here's what faithfulness means,
Hmm.
right? But they don't explicitly talk about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still a violation because there's that understanding, but that agreement is very often not explicitly discussed, right? It's pretty rare. Okay. Betrayal, a part of healing a betrayal and negotiating or establishing boundaries to create safety in the relationship after betrayal, that's a good opportunity to address those agreements and the violations of trust that have occurred. Right? We'll get to that, I'm sure, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. So so when someone has been betrayed, well, let me ask you first. What are some of the most common ways that clients experience betrayal trauma? What are some of the behaviors or symptoms that we tend to see when we talk about or see someone working with or dealing with betrayal trauma?
Yeah, I would say that it's actually fairly similar, not necessarily the same, but fairly similar to someone who is maybe experiencing a sort of PTSD,
Mhm.
where there's the physiological symptoms there whenever you think about it or anytime you're reminded of it, or in the early days, it might just be a constant stream of thoughts in your mind. Your heart is racing, your blood pressure is up. Maybe you're sweating, maybe you're feeling panicky. The intrusive thoughts. I don't want to think about it, but it's all I can think about. I think it's really common to have a lot of negative self-talk. Why am I so stupid? Is this my fault? How did I not know? How could I be with someone like this? What does this mean? So many, just an endless stream of questions. It could also look like shutting down, like going into that freeze state a little bit. I can't really eat. I can't really sleep. Some people who have to take care of children, they don't really have the option necessarily to fully shut down. So they kind of describe it as like, okay, a zombie state. I'm just going through like trying to put a smile on my face, like everything's fine, everything's fine. I send the kids off to school, or I, you know, do the work that I have to do. I take care of the aging parents that I have to take care of, whatever it is. I do this stuff, but really I just feel completely numb inside, and I'm just going through the motions. So yes, like I said, not eating, not sleeping. I just feel it could be nightmares, could be flashbacks. There's really a wide gambit, but none of it is comfortable.
Indeed, yeah. So true. And with a lot of partners that I've seen and talked with, there's this overwhelming desire for safety. Sometimes that comes out in the form of anger or rage.
Mhm.
That anger can be very helpful, but it can also lead partners to, in an attempt to establish safety that they don't have after their world has been turned upside down. They start to dig through financial records, credit card statements, bank statements to gather more information about the discovery that they've made. Right? It's a perfectly understandable
The detective
response.
hats. Come on.
Hmm. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. So true. Yeah. Mhm. So, diving into our main topic then today, what are some of the things that partners might do when they discover some kind of betrayal? What are some things that they might do to take care of themselves to start the healing process?
Yeah. Well, I think this could actually be divided more into here's some do's and here's some don'ts. And
Oh,
I
okay.
sometimes it's less helpful to say don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But I think it is helpful in this case to say, okay, here is what you should try and protect yourself against. Obviously, if you're finding this conversation after the betrayal has happened, maybe some of these don'ts already happened, and that's okay because a lot of these are just kind of what we naturally want to do. But we'll start talking with maybe some of the do's. What do you do if you find out your partner has been unfaithful? What do you do if you find out you've been betrayed? And like we had talked about, this could be, oh, I found out my partner was like has been watching porn. And that feels like a really deep betrayal to me. And I didn't know they were watching porn. And maybe we had talked about that being a boundary in our relationship. Maybe we hadn't, like you said. Maybe it was implicit for one partner, the other partner didn't understand that. I don't know. There's so many different combinations, but it could be something like that. It could be something like, oh, we're $100,000 in debt because my partner was seeking out massage parlors, prostitutes, for the last 10 years. So it is a really kind of big range of what constitutes betrayal. And it really doesn't matter how big, so to speak, you would say the act is. That doesn't correlate to how much trauma you have because everybody is unique and individual, and maybe something that happens in someone's relationship that you would consider, oh, that's not that bad, or I wouldn't even consider that a betrayal. Maybe that is everything to them and rocks their whole world. So it really doesn't matter what the nature of the betrayal is if it feels like an intimate partner betrayal to you and you have been blindsided with it. It can be the same level of trauma.
A good point.
So I would say do's starting with take a breath. Take a breath. I mean, this is hard, both literally and metaphorically. Literally because you're probably gasping for air. What the heck is happening? Try and take a breath. But also take a breath. You don't need to figure out everything right now. You right now it's your floor just dropped out from underneath you. You are trying to It's like you were thrown off the ship. You're in the stormy waters right now, and you're just desperately trying to find like a plank of wood to hold on to. And so like you mentioned, the beginning is really about establishing safety. We're trying to find that life raft. We're
Mhm.
not trying to make it all the way to shore right now. We're trying to find that life raft so we do not drown in those stormy waters. And so part of finding that initial safety, part of finding that initial life raft can look like one just practically depending on the nature of the betrayal. And usually we would recommend whatever the nature of the betrayal, even if you don't think it was involved other people at all, make sure you are safe by getting a full STD STI panel. Just get that out of the way because you want to make sure you can take steps to protect yourself if that is the case, if that is something that is affecting you. Basic self-care. This sounds so simple, but just so many times I'm going back with clients. Are you eating? Are you drinking water? Are you sleeping? what can we do to help you eat? Do we need to do, even just like grocery deliveries? Do we need to have more room in your budget to just DoorDash, this month? Do do we need to work on a sleep routine? Like, how can we track your water intake? Like some of those really, really basic things at the beginning, because you cannot function unless those basic needs are met. Those are some of the first things to go out the window in trauma.
So true.
Yeah,
So true.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I would say prioritize nervous system regulation. And
Mm.
and this is feeling safe internally. And so maybe you have really good skills and you can do this. Maybe this is something you need a professional's help with, but how can I start to regulate my nervous system either with breathing, either with safe spaces, or sorry, like visualizations of safe spaces, calm spaces in your mind. How can you kind of harness your inner wisdom to just get a moment of peace? What are different techniques you can do there? And then I would say a big one too is get a support system. And this, I think we're a little biased in the sense of a professional would be great. Getting a professional because this is just kind of such a niche thing that there's lots of misconceptions about, and people don't necessarily know how to handle it. But there is a way that we can help. There's a way that you can start to feel some safety. And so get a support system if you feel comfortable telling a close person that maybe a friend, maybe a family member, someone that you can confide in that you feel like is going to be non-judgmental for whatever you decide in the future. I'll touch a little bit more about that on the don't section, but I think that would be my initial thoughts on what to do.
Wow, those are great points. I love, first of all, what you said about self care. It is so, so common, right? In the attempts to establish safety, right? Keeping on digging through credit card statements, phone records, searching for any evidence of the betrayal, what partners don't know or are scared to find out, trying to find the truth to establish safety, right? To ignore self care, to ignore basic needs. I mean, the world is falling apart around them. They're just trying to survive,
Mhm.
right? So, but we know that shifting the focus to basic self care and attending to those needs can actually reduce the effects of the betrayal trauma, as well as seeking out a support system. I love what you said about seeking out safe people who can give us support, who we can start to share our story with. That can be so, so helpful. And the earlier the better. That's why seeking out a therapist, like a certified sex addiction therapist or a certified partner trauma therapist, can be so helpful because we understand intimate betrayal. We understand betrayal trauma. We understand what you're going through, and we can give you some very solid support in that, some direction as far as what might be helpful to you in collaboration with you and where you are. And we can also help you to take initial steps toward healing. That can be so helpful. Finding the right help can be a wonderful gift to yourself. And connecting with safe people as you build your support system, it's a process for a lot of partners, isn't it? Figuring out who to tell and how much. A therapist can help you with that. Making that decision with your partner, as both of you eventually will need your own support systems. It's best if you both have your individual therapists and ideally a couples therapist. At the very least, someone who can be in your corner as you figure out the next steps.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned and differentiating between best case scenario would be you as in the betrayed partner has an individual therapist. Your partner, the betraying partner, has an individual therapist. And then maybe not immediately, maybe immediately together if reconciling the relationship is something that is even on a hope or some if it's something that you guys both agree to, even just attending couples therapy. So that would be three separate therapists or, coaches or whoever you're seeing
Yeah, yeah,
now.
that's right.
And one thing that I just want to say that I feel so strongly about is a lot of times partners will say, "Well, why do I need the therapy? I didn't, I'm not the sex addict. I'm not the one who cheated on my spouse. I'm not the one who did these behaviors. Why do I need the therapy?" I don't like going to therapy. It takes time. I have to talk about yucky stuff. It's expensive. But like you said, it really is a gift to yourself. I say you deserve therapy just as much as maybe your spouse deserves therapy. Like they should be on the same level when you're talking about how are we going to make this therapy thing work. Because as much as maybe someone may need help for their actions, you deserve guidance and support as you walk through this mucky, yucky mess of betrayal trauma. Because, I hate to break it to you, but unless you walk through it, you're not going to get over it. You're not going to get through it unless you go through it. And it's not easy, it's not fun, but there is so much life on the other side. And it is worth it. I've seen it time and time again. But you have to acknowledge that you do deserve to get the support as the betrayed partner.
That you said that because that's such an understandable objection that partners have to seeking out the support of a therapist, but it really can make a huge difference. And to connect with other betrayed partners, whether that be in the form of a therapy group, a process group, or like a 12-step meeting, hearing from those betrayed partners who are farther down the path of healing and can offer hope that there is that life that you were talking about on the other side. It can feel so hard after a betrayal to feel any sense of hope or optimism that things can change and get better. It can.
Hmm.
And we really want to encourage betrayed partners in that regard. It can and does get better. There's work to do, but it
Yeah,
can change. It can get better.
oftentimes it'll be a moment where it's like t talking with a newly betrayed partner. I know you don't have hope right now. I know that you can't see it, but I've seen it time and time again. So I don't need you to believe it's going to work necessarily yet. I need you to trust me. I need you to trust me and trust yourself that if you do the work, it's going to be okay. You are going to be okay.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I want to go back to something you said in your list. You mentioned nervous system regulation.
Mhm.
Can you speak more to that in terms of the importance of learning those skills and how that can be helpful after betrayal?
Yeah. So, one thing that I often like referencing is called the polyvagal theory. And it talks about going from our parasympathetic to our sympathetic nervous systems and essentially what you would know as our calm, connected state, then our fight flight state, which is a little bit more elevated from our calm and collected, and then even more elevated from that is our freeze state. And so our freeze state is actually the most activated, the most elevated our nervous system is, which can sometimes be confusing because that's actually when our heart rate is slowing down, our non-necessary systems, our digestion, like things like that are slowing down. And so it's maybe not as obvious with oh, I feel my blood pumping, or I want to run away, I want to hide, or I want to fight this head on. So those are kind of different areas you can be at. And depending on where you're at, is I would say you start with kind of recognizing where you're at, and then depending on where you're at, you can do some things. Because if you feel like you're in the freeze, I call it kind of defrosting, like we need to defrost a little bit. and get to that place even of fight flight before we can be calm and connected because it's like a ladder, right? So freeze is at the top. We have to go down through that fight flight before we get to that calm and connected place. So even trying to elicit some of that anger or something to help get out of the numbness, right? Sometimes that could be more physical of like, okay, I need to literally go outside and ground myself, my feet to the grass and feel the sun on my body. I need to really, I think anything with using your senses, your five senses, what can I hear and see and touch and smell? What is going on around me? What can ground me to the present moment? And then I also love, and this is really good too when you're in that middle fight flight stage. I really love the power of breathing, and it's kind of it feels silly in a way because it's like, oh, breathe, breathe. You're like my life is falling apart. What do you mean you want me to breathe? But it's telling your body, okay, I am in control. I don't need like you're forcing your breathing to be calm, which connects to the other systems in your body, your nervous system, to de-escalate a little bit. And so my favorite one there, I'm really simple. I like to do the 4-2-6 breathing, where you breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, hold at the top for a count of 2, and then breathe out through your mouth for a count of 6. The important part is breathing out longer than you breathe in. That's going to be the the regulating breath. Not all breath is regulating. You think of hyperventilating or like panting like a
Oh
dog.
yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
that escalates your nervous system, right? So
Hmm.
something like this and doing it, and I love to say practice it even if you're not feeling elevated in the moment, which may be hard at the beginning, but practice it so it becomes muscle memory. So when, say, those flashbacks do come or those intrusive thoughts do come, you don't have to, because you're not necessarily thinking logically when that happens. You just have this to pull onto. It's just in your toolbox, it's in your muscle memory. And so I like to practice it, while I'm driving, where it just feels natural to the point where if I start feeling panicky in my own life, I can just automatically start that breathing. And otherwise there's so many different things you can do for nervous system regulation. So tapping, the I think the official name for it is the emotional freedom technique. Visualizations, meditations, there's lots of great free resources on YouTube, the Calm app. It's really hard, especially in our go, 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 go day and age, but finding space to sit with the present moment is actually so helpful in the long run.
I absolutely agree. And oh, you said so many good things there. I hear you talking about using all these interventions or strategies as ways of helping betrayed partners start to learn to manage the symptoms of the trauma and attend to their own wellness and healing. Um, when I found that when betrayed partners start to do that, they start to feel a little bit more empowered, like they can take care of themselves and feel better. It also starts to shift the what we call the locus of control. So what I can control as a person. Betrayed partners often want to keep the focus of control, the locus of control external, right? If I can be aware of what my partner is doing, I can dig through the financial records or whatever. I can get to the bottom of this, right? I can manage and control what feels out of control in my life right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And of course, we talk about boundaries to help us to manage some of that, but boundaries ultimately come from an internal locus of control. I'm making a choice about what I need, and I'm creating a boundary with my partner to help to give me what I need. And if he doesn't, then I'm going to make a choice about what that means to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I hear you talking about these strategies for managing trauma, regulating the nervous system in the same way. I'm going to take responsibility for the impact of the trauma that I've experienced here, and I'm going to start to take care of myself. Hmm.
Mm, yes, yes. I mean, unfortunately, we cannot control anyone except ourselves, right? So even
Oof.
trying to
Yeah.
control the external ultimately is futile because we cannot control anyone except ourselves. We cannot make anyone do the work, do the healing. And so I think what you said about boundaries is so important because sometimes boundaries can be misconstrued of like there's all these rules I need to follow, like you need to do this, I need you to make me feel better. But boundaries is really, okay, this is what I'm communicating that I am not okay with or that I am okay with, what I need. And if you are unable to do this, this is what I'm going to do in order to protect myself or care for myself. Not about punishing you, it's about taking care of myself and what I need. If you are, let's just go to like an extreme example. If you are unable to remain faithful, then I will need to step away from the relationship.
Mm.
Yeah, it's not about the external control. It's about you understanding and communicating what you need and stepping into your power to do that with whatever the other person decides or not.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You said something so important there that boundaries are ultimately not for the other person; they're for us as betrayed partners.
Hmm.
They're there to give the other person an opportunity to help us feel safe, to help us meet our needs, to help us provide the structure that's missing after betrayal happens, right? After discovery, right? And like you said, you can make requests of these partners, but if they are unable or unwilling to meet those requests, and the requests are based on my needs, they're not arbitrary, they're not detached from the reality of the violations of trust. Right? Sometimes I hear about, well, you betrayed me, so my boundary is that you have to clean the bathroom. Right. I mean, that's going to feel punitive. That's going to feel arbitrary, and that's ultimately the division of labor might be something that you need to resolve, but it doesn't have to do with the immediacy of the betrayal and restoring trust and safety. Right. So, how can you identify? And a therapist can help you with this. How can you identify what you need to start to feel safe? And how can you create boundaries with regard to people, places, things? Technology is a big one. Boundaries for when your partner's at work, anything that you might imagine based on the nature of what you know has happened,
Hmm.
right? To start to create some more stability for yourself, some more safety. That can be so critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And making sure that what you choose to do for yourself if maybe a boundary is crossed is something that's realistic, something that you can uphold. I use this as an example, but I said it was extreme because very rarely is it going to be, oh, I'm up and like leaving the house, there it's something like I need you to sleep on the couch tonight. Maybe it's something that's even just more a natural boundary where if this happens, I am going to be more wary, less trustful of you. If this happens, I'm going to tell my safe person about it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be these huge extremes, but it's what are things that are realistic that partners can do, like you said, to take back their control in establishing their safety.
Hmm. Yeah, and like you said, the sometimes we have bottom lines, right? That is bottom line boundaries that if this happens again, I'm out, right? I need to leave this relationship. If you act out with another person again, if you engage in some of the more egregious aspects of the betrayal again, something like that, right? Acting out with another physical person is one that we hear most commonly about. But what are those bottom lines? Oof. if this happens, I'm going to consider one of the following options. I'm going to file for separation. I'm going to move out. I'm going to initiate an in-home separation or an out-of-home separation, something like that, or I'm going to file for divorce. Right. But like you said, there are so many smaller violations of trust that unfortunately may occur because the betraying partner isn't perfect. As much as he might want to repair the relationship, he's going to screw up. He might even inadvertently lie again. Okay. I don't want to scare betrayed partners, but betraying partners or addicts, their lying can be so pervasive and habitual that that can take time. Even though the behavior is stopped, it can take time for them to be fully honest. Okay, and that's why honesty is such an important boundary. I need you to be honest with me, and when you aren't, I need you to be able to tell me.
Hmm.
Okay, and betraying partners often need a lot of help in understanding, hey, it's not so much about the lie, it's that you didn't tell me about it, right? It's the deception that's even more harmful than the act of betrayal itself. We see that
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
right? So with boundaries, the punishment has to fit the crime, right? The consequences for that boundary are commensurate with the nature of the violation itself. So if you tell a white lie, I'm not going to divorce you, right? If you delete a message on your phone when one of my boundaries is, hey, no more deleted messages. I'm not necessarily going to file for divorce, but I might ask you to sleep on the couch for a few days because my nervous system, I cannot be around or tolerate that kind of behavior if I'm going to be in a trusting relationship with you. That's not
Hmm.
going to work for me, right? And
Hmm.
that's what boundaries are all about.
And you said something so important, and I'm sorry I didn't mention this earlier, but yes, most of the trauma from betrayal trauma comes from not necessarily the betrayal itself, which is traumatic, but the deception, the lies, the gaslighting. That is where a lot of the trauma stems. And so, yes, especially at the beginning, there's this dynamic where we're like, please just be honest. Like, even if you do these things, it's not good, but like if I could feel you're being honest, it helps my nervous system feel safe. But then like betraying partners, just so much like, oh, I can't be honest because if they know about this, then they're gonna feel less safe. And it's like that's what their instincts are telling them, but it goes against what the betrayed partner's nervous system actually needs. So, yeah, that's a really hard dance in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. But and I tell betraying partners and addicts that I work with all the time, be honest. Be honest.
Yeah.
She needs to start being able to trust that you are going to tell her the truth. Now I may be getting ahead of you a little bit here, but I want to talk for a second about managing the truth after betrayal. Here's what I mean by that. I always suggest, or typically, okay, my approach is always to provide anyone that I talk to with information and help them make the right choice for them. But especially when there's been extensive betrayal, I always recommend finding a therapist, of course, like a CSAT or a CPGT, and requesting a full disclosure. Okay, the full disclosure is a process that is designed to help the couple come to a shared understanding of the facts involved with the history of the acting out behavior, right? Or the infidelity. It is so critical for partners to come to a common narrative that they both understand so that they can start their healing process. If the betrayed partner is constantly wondering, is there more? Is there more? That's a recipe for staying stuck. Right. And
Mhm.
so there's got to be a process, whether through full disclosure or some other means that the couple negotiates together. There's got to be a process for getting to that shared understanding so that the whole truth can be known. Sharing that full truth helps the betraying partner to take responsibility, to shed his secrets, to start to reduce shame and heal from his own fears of abandonment because he's afraid that if I tell the whole truth, my partner's going to leave me. That's going to be it. Okay, wherein the opposite is true. Partners betraying partner or sorry, betrayed partners really just need the truth, and then most of them decide to stay. Most of them do, in my experience. So it's something that betraying partners need help unlearning. And it's something that betrayed partners absolutely have the right to ask for. I need you to be honest with me about what is happening in this relationship right now, okay, which is where boundaries can come in.
Mm.
And I want a full disclosure so that together we can get to the truth about what's happened in the past because I need to know what's happened in this relationship if I'm going to make an informed decision about what I need to feel safe, whether or not I want to continue in this relationship, and how I can heal.
Hmm. Yeah. And we could do a full podcast episode or multiple podcast episodes on the process of full disclosure and what
Yeah, maybe
I
someday
mean,
we will.
yeah, I'm sure you will.
Mhm.
But yes, so essentially knowing that sometime in the future, the full truth is going to be revealed. I mean, if both partners are on board, right? You can't force someone to do something they're unwilling to do, but both partners are on board and want to work towards it, knowing that in the future, the truth is going to be discovered, revealed in a way that is the least traumatic, the way that is you're able to trust the most because it is this really formal thing that's been vetted and practiced and has specifically answered questions. And so, yes, we're saying for the betrayed partner, it is really crucial, necessary for you to know the truth. That also brings me to my list of don'ts for the very beginning, because unfortunately, you can't, it usually takes a while in order to have this full disclosure ready for multiple reasons, because both people need to be ready. Because one, for example, if you're, so my don't would be, and a lot of times people do this immediately, so please don't freak out if you've already done this. It's okay. But my don't would be don't ask your partner countless questions about all the details because one, that is just more traumatizing to you. Like that is what the studies are showing. It's unhelpful for your brain. And then two, this person just betrayed you. You're not going to believe them anyways. Your body's not going to believe them. You can't trust them. And so you're asking them these things and they're answering one way and maybe they are being honest, maybe they're not. But regardless, what grounds do you have to trust them? We need to build up your ability to trust them, their ability to be trustworthy before the whole truth can really be revealed. And Jeremy, like you were saying earlier, a lot of times, like the lying is just so deeply ingrained, not even conscious, I see in a lot of people, so disintegrated with different parts of their self. And so the betraying partner needs to really figure that out, how to bring it to awareness, how to bring their lying, their deception to conscious awareness and change that. And so I always say keep a running list somewhere of all these questions because these questions are so important. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have them answered. You know, some questions may be a little bit more harmful than helpful, but that's something a therapist can help you figure out. Just write down all the questions that you have, and that's something that we can get answered in the full disclosure. I want to honor those questions. I want to make sure those questions are answered, but I want to get them answered in a way that you can trust and that is going to be the least traumatizing to you. Because a lot of times, if a betraying partner is not necessarily ready to tell the truth, it'll be I'm asking the same question over and over and over again, and sometimes I get a different answer. And what does that do? That increases the trauma, that increases kind of this PTSD. So that would be my first don't is try not to ask all the questions right now.
Yeah, I love that. And Jordan, can we pause here? Because before you transition more fully into your don't list, I want to wrap up part one of this episode, and in part two we'll continue with this conversation and dive into the rest of what you got. Okay. Thanks for
Perfect.
joining us today, and I hope you can join us for part two when we continue the discussion. That's a wrap for this episode of the Compassionate Recovery Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really glad that you chose to spend this time with us. I'm grateful that you're here. If you heard something that resonated with you, please feel free to share this episode with someone who might need to hear it. And be sure to subscribe wherever you listen so that you never miss an episode. To connect with us, please check out cicfreeconsult.com so that you can schedule a free consultation with one of our therapists or coaches. We are standing by here to support you. Wherever you are in your healing journey, we're here to help. Recovery is hard work. You don't have to do it alone. Help is just a free consultation away. So until we see each other again, remember, healing is always possible.